introverted noise. Hurry up, Daddy.
Let's do it.
Rolls out to the right. 5 seconds to go in the first half. Dante fires deep to the left. Moss caught it at the 11, but now he pitches it to Mo Williams. Touchdown! You gotta be kidding me!
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Climbing the Pocket podcast. I am your host, Jason Brown. You can find me on Twitter at BrownJason. And we did it. It was looking dicey for a little bit there, but we did it. We got the whole crew back here once again. Took a little bit of time to decompress, and real life pops up every now and again. But we're back. Little ways out from the draft, which was really the last time we were really in here doing this thing. But we got everybody, the whole crew back in effect. QB1, my man, how you doing? How you been?
Good, man. Counting down the days until daddy daycare starts at the house, so I'm excited.
You're excited now. Can't wait till we talk to you the next time, see if this excitement still holds.
Right.
They use sleep deprivation as a form of torture in many, many situations, so we're going to see how you're holding up here after a little bit.
This might be my last pod until training camp.
Hey, you're going to be up anyway. You might as well come and record,
Right.
And I guess, number 2 in the order, number 2 to be having the babies this off season, Myles. My man, how you doing? How you been?
I'm all right. I'm busy, man.
I know, man. It seems that's been a running theme for you this entire year. Just busy, 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 busy.
Yeah, man.
Luckily for you, I'm sure things will slow down once the baby shows up, right?
Yeah, that'll help. That'll help things for sure. No, my wife she's ready to be done. So
yeah. Sometimes it be like that. And Prince, I know you're gonna leave you out. No babies that we know of on the way.
That we know of.
How you doing?
there might be a little
How you been?
around already.
That we know of. Man, it's good to be back, y'all. It's been a while.
Little Yankita or something.
Something like that. Hey, you just a gender neutral name, so you can make a junior girl or boy. So good.
Myles said Yankita. Love it. Fed up Myles. Making his first appearance. So before we really get into this thing, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm not really sure what we're gonna talk about today. But Myles, why were you so mad about people not washing their legs today, man?
Nah, it wasn't legs. Let's get this straight. It's about people not washing their feet, and people telling me they just wash the top of their feet, when in reality the worst part of your feet is the bottom of your feet, and people just are like, "Oh no, I'm good." What? There's a girl at my work today, literally wearing like sandals, and I'm like, "Do you wash the bottom of your feet when you shower?" She's like, "No." I was like, "What?"
So this
Miles,
is.
can I jump in real quick?
Oh yeah, hop in, Prince, please.
Okay,
I'm heated.
I'm shocked right now.
I did like a poll around my work, so I'm heated about this.
Here's a problem that I have with.
Hold on one sec, Prince. But Myles, so what were the percent? Because you said you did a poll. Like, so if you just had to guesstimate what the numbers came out to don't wash the bottom of their feet, to wash the bottom of their feet, how did that split work out?
So I talked to 7 girls that I work with. One of them said they do, like, vigorously wash their feet, and the rest were like, kinda. I was like, no. And one girl asked me if it was a trick question. Like, a trick question. A trick question that I walked away, because how is that a trick question? You either do or you don't.
So we've come to find out that there's some suspect hygiene at Myles' office. I'm sorry, Prince. I cut you off. I'm sorry, Prince. Go ahead.
Oh no, we good. We good.
Sure
we good.
We good?
Here's my problem with what. Yeah, we good. This is my problem with what Myles is talking about, right? Because I've gone to high school, college, and now in being in the professional world or whatever. I always have either a coworker, a fellow student, someone who just walks around barefoot all the time in the office, in class or whatever. They're always walking around barefoot. So then when I'm hearing about a bunch of people who don't wash the bottom of their feet, and then just they'll be walking around my office and be walking around like the world without feet on, and then they're not washing their feet. We got problems. I need to talk to whoever Miles's HR person is, and we need to have a few
Oh,
discussions
I
about
got a meeting
personal
set
hygiene.
tomorrow. I got a meeting set tomorrow.
I'll be there with you, bro.
So Miles, you calling the manager, huh? That's they got you so heated you got to call the manager.
Yeah, it's about to get real.
This is one of those things I just never thought about at all until this week on Twitter when people were like, "We don't wash our legs, we don't wash our feet." I just thought that cleanliness, hygiene, whatever, was just kind of a standard thing once you became an adult. You knew you were supposed to put soap on your whole body and then rinse it off and dry yourself off and keep it moving. So this week has been a bit shocking that this many like professional seeming people just don't want to clean themselves.
But
It's a bit strange.
Here's the thing, Jason. It's one thing if like, so I know as people in general, you know, we tend to overdo it as far as the scents, you know, the body sprays, all that stuff that exists and stuff. If you want to have that argument, that's fine, right? But if you only taken a shower once every couple of days and you're not even doing it right that one time, why are you taking a shower? Why are you doing it? Just do it right the first time. And then if you want to have a discussion, you know what, I feel clean. I don't really work out like that. I don't really sweat very much. But you know, when I do get in the shower, I know I'm doing my business. Then we cool. But if you just gonna get in the shower and then you're not supposed to do what you're supposed to do, why are you in the shower? You just taking a bath.
To get wet.
Yo, just
get it
getting wet does not clean you.
It's not clean you, bro.
And just putting soap on you does not clean you. You got to rub.
You gotta rush that top layer of grossness and grime and grease and all and skin cells and all that other stuff. It needs to be gone from top to bottom, behind the ears.
So JR, is this an issue down where you at, or is this like a Minnesota thing that we're worrying about right now?
No, I mean they're exactly right. But down here it gets really bad. Like some girls, they're like barefoot in the club, which is absolutely disgusting to me.
Goodness.
So things can get really bad down here in the South.
Y'all have people getting STDs of the feet. Come on, JR.
Yeah.
No, we can't have that, bro.
Yeah, it gets really bad down here. So I understand, like when people get grossed out, when people don't wash their feet. So it's really nasty.
Yo, the worst part
leave
is
it at that.
there are people in this world that like feet.
Yeah, they need to know that they're taking some chances right there. They're really risking it all.
I don't see. That's the thing is I don't mind feet, right? Because I thought people were just walking around washing their feet. Now I have to go back and reevaluate my entire life because people just saying they don't like feet.
Yeah, you got to reevaluate some things. I don't think we need to get into all that on the podcast. All right. Well, we let Miles get that off his chest, and now we're gonna try to find a way to segue this, bring it back around, talk about football some way somehow, and I guess it's the news of the day, the ongoing news. The news has been going on for a little while here. We got more quotes.
Adam Thielen can't run routes, Jason.
No, we're not talking about that. We're not talking about that nonsense. We are not talking about that. We're not even breathing life into that foolishness. Adam Thielen can't run routes. Said nobody ever. All right, let's keep that moving. But our man, Kyle Rudolph, keeps making news this offseason, you know, be it his attire, be it his significant other getting on the Twitter machine, be it him saying that he is a team player, wants to ride out his career with the Vikings, but also is too young to take a pay cut. JR, what are your thoughts on how this whole Kyle Rudolph situation has been playing itself out fairly loudly in the media this offseason, and what do you expect to be kind of the long-term resolution of things?
Yeah, it's definitely a weird situation, and I just don't like how he's going about it, from his significant other to the T-shirts he wore coming into minicamp to just the stuff that he's going about it, especially with Kevin Stefanski wanting to run so much 12 personnel. He just has the understanding that there's only going to be one person on the field for whatever reason, and he seems to be really threatened by Irv Smith Jr. being selected in the second round when really they drafted him to be the complement to him. And I mean, he's eventually going to be his replacement just because Rudy's going to be 30 years old this year, I believe. So I'm sure he probably expected them to eventually get his replacement, but maybe not so soon and maybe not this early. And the Vikings have tried to find his replacement in the later rounds, but they were aggressive with trying to find his replacement this year with him entering a contract year. But I think the Vikings are in a great situation because, yes, he has a $7.5 million cap hit this year, but they can let him go and they can get a compensatory pick or they can let him go via trade. So they're in a great situation right now. I just don't like how he's handling the situation as a whole, but it's very interesting that and Rappaport is the person that's leaking all of this information and they share the same agent. So I find that kind of fishy with what's going on. So we'll see what does end up happening as far as the resolution for this whole fiasco.
So Miles, the Vikings did go and bring in your guy. You were a big proponent of Irv, and it seems to have Kyle Rudolph feeling some kind of way. This is the first time that I've been able to really ask you about it on the pod. What are your thoughts about how all this stuff is shaking down? What are your thoughts on the pick and what it seems to be doing to Kyle Rudolph and his mentality about things since it all went down?
Yeah, I mean, I love the pick, but if I was Kyle Rudolph, to me, this isn't. Yeah, this is a guy that'll probably take away targets from me. So that to me is for if I was him would be my biggest issue. But it shouldn't take him off the field because the difference between Irv and Rudy, besides some of the athletic numbers and running after the catch, is more about how Irv Smith can kind of move around all over the field. He could be an H back. He can line up in line a little bit. He can be flexed out, just like Rudolph, but he's a little bit better, at least at his stage of his career, a better blocker than Rudy's been able to do consistently. Not that Rudy can't somewhat block, but I think you could pair them both on the field at the same time, and I think I see where Rudy's coming from, where he feels the writing is on the wall of they drafted somebody early. They haven't taken a tight end before. Was it round 4 or 5? Round 5, I think it was. Since Rudolph, he was a second round pick back in 2011. So I get it. It's kind of one of those you've brought in all these like late round guys, so he's not really threatened by anybody. But then they finally bring in a guy with a high pick who has high expectations. That kind of brings a little bit of a kind of put him in his feelings a little bit. It feels like, and then especially when he's in a contract year, has no guaranteed money left on his deal. He's really kind of. I don't like JR said. I don't believe he's really going about it the right way. He's really leaking things that he really and talking to the media and saying things and in a sense saying like, why wouldn't I be willing to take? He didn't say he'd take a pay cut, but he basically said, why wouldn't I be willing to help the team by extending my contract to lower my cap hit? But then the team tried to do that, and he was like, why would I take a pay cut? And I'm very, very of the belief that I'm on the player side when it comes to not taking pay cuts because get as much money as you can while you can because the league does not last forever. So get your money, Kyle Rudolph, but you still need to be out here saying it. I just don't understand that aspect of it. Just let it go. Like let the things fall as they will. It really feels like he's trying to get the fans on his side to like help sway the perception of Twitter and media and all that stuff. But it just doesn't feel like it's working. It feels like he's kind of like hurting himself a little bit.
Yeah, it seems really weird, especially this early in the off season, or maybe this late in the off season. Like at this point in the off season, to be running this sort of media offensive where like just things keep leaking and popping up, or I said I would do this, or I said I would do that, and there's all these random things that are popping up. Like at this point, you're on the roster. Why not just go and compete, especially at a position like tight end, where we know that more often than not, rookies take a little while
Right.
to develop. Just go compete. The likelihood is that you'll be able to go out there in an improved offense that wants to feature more tight ends. It's just, it's very strange the way that he's going about things. And this is for me as someone who thinks that Rudolph probably should have been cut or traded this offseason just based on where we were from a salary cap perspective. I find it very, yeah, bizarre how he's chosen to handle this whole thing. I guess Yinka, I'll bring you in here. Like, what do you think ultimately is Kyle Rudolph's like end game? What's he working towards? What's he hoping to achieve with this? Do you think he's trying to leverage the team into locking him up and making him a Viking for life, or do you think that he's trying to leverage his way out of town to potentially a better situation, better offense, or something of along those lines?
I think Kyle Rudolph knows the exact year he's or the age he wants to retire, and that's not this year. And he wants to, essentially what he wants to do is he wants to get that last little bit of contract so then he can make the decision that he wants to retire. I could envision Kyle Rudolph retiring at like a 32 or 33 years old, just because he's taking the hits on his body. He's made enough money. He has enough, stuff saved up, all that stuff. I think it's more of the cases that he really wants to control his own, his own career path and whatnot. And he doesn't want to become one of those players who, he is kind of on the wrong end of his prime and career and stuff. And then, he bounced around to a team or two or he gets cut or whatever the case is. No, he'd much rather be the guy who got drafted by Minnesota, stayed in Minnesota, and his career in Minnesota. Very Brian Robinson-like. So I think he really wants to have a say in how he ends his career versus being one of those guys who ends up being washed towards the end of the career and kind of bounces around to a team or two and then has to come back to Minnesota and then retire. So, yeah, he just wants to have his own destiny in his own hands.
And that's fair, and I think that most of us would want to do that. I'm going to give you guys rapid fire. Yinka, starting with you. Give me one team. Where's Kyle Rudolph going to be playing at the start of the upcoming season? Yinka, one team, go.
I would say the Vikings.
Okay, Myles.
Minnesota.
Okay, JR.
Vikings, but if I had to pick another one, it'd be the Raiders.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Raiders or Patriots seem like the most obvious choices.
All right. Like that. And it's been a minute, but you guys haven't been on. So Myles and Yinka, you don't get to get very deep into analysis or anything like that. It's been too far away. But I want your draft grades for the Vikings because we didn't get them after the draft. Prince, where you at? How do you think they did?
I think they did a B.
Okay.
Yeah,
give me your favorite pick and your least favorite pick.
My favorite
and the least
pick,
favorite can't be the long snapper.
Oh yeah, right. Favorite pick would probably be Irv. Least favorite would probably be Garrett Bradbury.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So I said you weren't going to get to do a bunch of analysis, but I'm going to need you to help me understand this least favorite pick.
Here's my thing with the Vikings as far as I when I say least favorite, I'll clarify. I still think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be solid on the Vikings offensive line. I guess I was maybe holding that hope a little bit more so on Pelle Elflein to be our center of the future, and I really wanted us to get a really talented left tackle and have bookend tackles for the foreseeable 10 years future, whatever the case is, and I'm just concerned that Reef will start to slow down even more so, and then the Vikings are still left at a revolving door at on the offensive line, and it just concerns me that with Kirk Cousins that's going to be an issue. So I'm glad they addressed the offensive line early. It's just that I get concerned about how it will truly affect the offensive line. So yeah.
Okay, that's fair. Myles, what kind of grade you giving him?
I think I gave like a B plus. I believe for me, is all about making sure the offensive side of the ball got taken care of in this draft, and surprisingly, they actually did that. The first 4 picks were offensive players, so I'm pretty happy with that. Favorite pick was Irv Smith, just because I think he was that fringe first round type player, and they got him at pick 50. They didn't have to move up to get him. It sounds like they didn't even believe that he'd be there, so really big fan of that. He's my third tight end too, so I really like that. And then least favorite pick, more just because of where they took him. I like how they traded back to do it, but the Alexander Madison pick's probably my least favorite, just because of they continue to invest in running back high, and and then it becomes a revolving door anyways. So I just don't understand why they need to keep doing it with a high round pick. But like I said, at least they were able to trade back from 81 to 102 to get it done. So I think that at least makes me feel better about it. But I'm still not the biggest fan of it.
They listen to the pod and they listen to me. That's why, Myles.
Well, we're all doomed if that's the case.
Well, I mean,
but I mean, if they are listening, Prince, if you tell them that, Rick, we want an interview, come on through.
Right, that'd be dope. The more I think about it, though, the more I shouldn't be surprised. I kept all the mock drafts, all the things I was doing in the offseason to like figure out what I believe the Vikings should or could do in the draft. I kept pushing running back off because I just didn't feel like it was a true need. The more I should have known based off their history that once Latavius Murray left, they were definitely going to address it somewhat early. And it's just something I should have predicted because it's predictable.
So the position maybe you didn't love so much, but have you had a chance to watch any Madison? Like, what are your thoughts on him as a player?
I mean, I think he can do a little bit of. They keep comparing him to Latavius Murray, which I think doesn't really fit. I think the role makes sense, but I just don't think the style of player they are is quite there. I think.
Is he a better or worse football player than Latavius Murray?
Well, I'm gonna say worse because he hasn't played in the league yet. And I think Murray's been a pretty productive running back since Oakland and the couple of years in Minnesota. But I believe he's got a little bit more of a different style. He's more of a battering ram type. He's a guy that guys are going to bounce off of him. He's not going to run away from people though. But he's a one cut runner, which you like to see. He got pretty good vision. But unlike Latavius Murray, he's not going to probably run away from people in the open field. He runs a little more stout because he's not 6'3" the way Latavius Murray is, but he can catch just a little bit. But his pass pro needs some work. But there are positives there. I think if you needed him to step in and take some carries, take 15 carries a game, I think he could handle that and be pretty productive and efficient. But I think the issue I have is when Dalvin Cook is healthy, we haven't seen the team use other running backs. So it just feels like it's more of like an insurance than it is he's going to be a part of the rotation. Unless I could be wrong, but that's just what we've seen when Dalvin Cook's been healthy is they don't really use any other running backs. So I'll be curious to see how that plays.
Myles, so then here comes a question now. Let's say Vikings, Dalvin Cook's contract, it comes up next year.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do? You have this guy who you drafted, who, he's not a Dalvin Cook type player, whatever the case is. Are you going to go pay? Are you going to go pay a Dalvin Cook, or are you going to go again find another premier back who you can?
I like the Myles just started laughing as soon as you said the word pay.
But I'm saying Dalvin Cook will probably command a little bit of money. I mean, it's a legitimate question the Vikings are asking themselves. Dalvin Cook.
This isn't a make or break year for Dalvin Cook for the Vikings, but if he wants to look at making pretty good money for the Minnesota Vikings or any other team for that matter, he's really going to need to prove that he can stay healthy this season and put together a full season because we haven't seen it yet, so we don't know the full extent of what he can do from a 14 to 16 game perspective. If he can prove that this season, I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings were to look at potentially extending him next offseason. So I personally, my stance isn't paying running backs, so I think it would depend on what the pay number looks like. I'd have no problem extending him. It just depends on what that number looks like. But Madison really shouldn't stop them from wanting to keep Cook if that's their plan.
Well, I'm just more asking in the terms of if Madison has a somewhat of a future role with the Vikings, do you let a guy like Dalvin go and then slide another guy just in there rather than paying Dalvin?
Oh yeah,
but I mean, if
Dalvin
is your primary guy and he is really just your third down guy or maybe goal line type situations. I'm just curious if the move was essentially made because they are probably gonna maybe not look to pay Dalvin in the future.
I mean, I think it's a possibility for sure because, like I said, I believe it was an insurance move, whether it's Dalvin staying healthy or not staying healthy, or if it's moving on from Dalvin in 2 years, you at least have a guy in place that you trust, and then can probably look to grab another guy complimentary back down the road. So either way, it's a plan for the now and the future because he's has a 4-year contract. So yeah, I think a little bit of both.
All right, I like it. One of the things that that happened that we didn't really talk about, I know that people weren't really happy about, especially in the context of the Madison pick, that the Vikings really didn't do much in the way of bolstering the wide receiver core early. Of the players that were picked, obviously, Myles, you're here, so we got to talk to you about it. Do you see anyone that was picked in this draft class that has an opportunity to become a big contributor? And if not, where do you expect that wide receiver 3 to production to come from this offseason, this next season?
Yeah, so I mean, I like the guys they took. I wish I've been saying and have been a proponent of them investing in the third wide receiver spot all offseason, whether it's in free agency or in the draft. They didn't do it. Like, I would have loved to see that Alexander Madison pick be a wide receiver, but they chose not to do it. They could have gotten guys like Stanley Morgan Jr. or Emmanuel Hall in the 7th round, which is crazy to me. But they chose BC Johnson, who I didn't get to until late. Him and Dylan Mitchell, I didn't get to late when I was watching tape. But both bring to me. There's kind of that, like, BC Johnson has some of that. I'm not going to compare them as like ceiling or what that, but I think playing style wise, BC Johnson has a little bit more of that Adam Thielen style to his game, where I believe Dylan Mitchell has that Stephon Diggs to his game, where he's a make guys miss the open field. He's quick twitched, stuff like that. Where BC Johnson's that guy who can run inside and outside from the slot and outside, but really good technical route runner, good hands, and he can play special teams. So I think there's a little bit of that. Really feels like there's some comparisons there for me for their playing styles. But I think for me, I like Dylan Mitchell because I think he can be a deep threat, and I think he could be like a gadget style player if they wanted him to be. I believe there are some flaws in his technical game, running routes and some route recognition and coverage recognition that I saw on tape. Not too big of a worry because I think he's young, but I think he's the kind of guy that they could have an impact on the team down the road. Not sure if it'll be year one. I really believe between those two guys, I think BC Johnson has a better chance to stick early because I believe it's of the special teams ability as well as his ability to run routes at pretty well, actually. Really, really impressed by his route running and understanding of leverage and coverage that I believe he could be like a wide receiver 5 or 6 on this team. But to answer your question about a wide receiver 3, I'm not sure. Where I'm disappointed the most in the Vikings is that they didn't really bring anybody in to push a Laquan Treadwell. Like, if Treadwell had shown last year that there's some instance of like, oh, this guy could be kind of a decent role player for us, I'd have no issue with them not going into the season and not looking to improve upon that. But he didn't do that. He looked like, whether you want to call it regression or what, he didn't prove anything last year, and he just didn't play well at all. The numbers show that. The efficiency numbers show that. And then they did nothing to supplement that. They didn't even bring back an Aldrick Robinson. So I struggle with that aspect of things. It really looks like it's going to be – because Laquan Treadwell looked good in camp last year. I believe he'll probably look good again in camp this year just because that's just what he's been able to do. I really believe it's between him and Chad Beebe. And I think Beebe has the best chance. His issue is he's not really an outside receiver, so he's kind of mitigated to the slot, which, I mean, it's fine because I think Adam Thielen can be he's an outside. He can play outside as well, so you could put Beebe in the slot, and we saw that against Detroit last year where he played a few snaps in the slot and they moved Adam Thielen outside. So I kind of like that aspect of it if you wanted to go that route. It's just, how do you trust Beebe to stay healthy for one, and how do you believe that what we've seen that he could come in and be that consistent wide receiver 3? What if, one of Diggs or Thielen goes down for a significant amount of time? You're kind of really hedging your bets on Beebe, Treadwell, Zylstra, some of these guys to step up and show something when we have seen literally next to nothing from any of these guys. So I worry about that a lot.
Myles, I'm with you. We've talked a lot and agreed a lot about the wide receiver 3 position. I think it just goes to show that, we might see the Vikings in, 21 or 22 personnel a lot this season. They're probably going to have Kyle and Irv on the field a lot together. And I just worry about their overconfidence on how much Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are going to be able to constantly contribute this year. I mean, we've seen it that Diggs doesn't really survive the season. He's averaging probably around 13, 14 games a season over the last couple of years. So, I mean, to not have a guy like that, I mean, maybe they do truly believe that Irv can be kind of that hybrid wide receiver 3, the second tight end, and really feel like he's going to add that much more, where they didn't really feel like they needed to get a third weapon at wide receiver. That's my hope, but yep. I think that I would imagine that was their guess, but I'm with you. I'm still a little bit skeptical and hesitant on why they didn't address it.
Getting a stretching tight end in Irv Smith helped me feel better about how things went, because at least they did get another true pass catcher. So to your point, I would love that to be the case. We just need to see it, because the Vikings have been a big thing about making sure that their tight ends have to be good blockers before they see the field. So, not that Irv Smith isn't a good blocker, or, an adequate blocker. It's just that we've seen them not really give young guys an opportunity to really see the field too often.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I'm curious about. Like, so they brought in Irv, Kyle's still on the team. JR, with them bringing in the new scheme and potentially going to more 2 tight end sets, I guess, what are your expectations for how a player like Irv might be used early to get him on the field to lessen the need for us to have to rely on a guy like a Treadwell or, God forbid, a Chad Beebe or anyone else further down the roster?
And I'm glad we're talking about this, because I think that's who's going to be your number 3 receiver. I think it's going to be Irv Smith Jr. And I think that's probably why they didn't, or they weren't so adamant about adding that third guy. And I still would have liked them to take a risk on the guy in the 3rd round instead of the Madison pick. I think he probably would have been there for them in the 4th or even the 5th round. But we'll never know that, or the outcome of that, if he was going to be there. But I think that's the way that they're going to use him. And I think they probably learned from their past mistakes with the Tyler Conklin and David Morgan, and just trying to make those guys what they're not. And what I mean by that is more receiving threats as opposed to blocking threats. I think Conklin is more of a receiving threat as opposed to a blocking threat, and then vice versa for David Morgan, of course. But with Irv Smith Jr., you can flex him out wide, you can put him at the hip, or you can play him in line. So he's a true versatile type of guy that you can essentially treat like a tight end as well as a receiver, depending on however you want to use him. But I think most of his value will come probably flexed out more as a receiver, just because he doesn't show to be very comfortable much as far as an inline blocker. He's not a guy that's gonna, just obliterate guys off the ball, blow defensive linemen off the ball. That's just not his game. But if you flex him out wide, he's shown to be able to defeat press coverage and win out on the perimeter, whether that's versus safeties or even nickel guys. He did that in the SEC consistently, and everybody has seen the film on that when people have posted up clips. And he excels at separation, which is something that they don't have at the tight end position right now. But where he's really unique is he can get yards after the catch. It's not just prior to the catch point. So I think they're essentially going to treat him like that third wide receiver, even if they are in 12 personnel or even 11 personnel, if he's that only tight end on the field.
All right. Well, we got through that. Feel like we talked about enough, football stuff. 'Cause I got a question, JR, and it's a very important question for you. And don't think I'm not noticing the timing of some things that are going on in real life based on what's going on television. But Game of Thrones, how you feeling about the season so far, man? What do you think about the last episode?
I actually like it, man. I know it's getting a lot of criticism, but there is some unrealistic things going on. The whole white horse thing at the end of the episode of last week was kind of questionable. That was a little bit random, but outside of that, I enjoyed the scenes, especially with Hodor or the Hound in the Mountain, I should say. So I enjoyed that. I thought that was really cool. I'm enjoying this last season. I know I'm a newcomer, but I'm actually enjoying it. I know it's getting a lot of criticism, but I'm actually liking it.
Okay. Myles, what about you, man? How you feeling?
Yeah, I mean I think it's good. I've been watching it and following. I think just some of my issue is it really feels like they're really supplementing some of the story arc and some of the writing by just creating a lot of great visuals and using the visuals as the way to kind of tell a story and be the lead. So like in the Long Night, I loved that episode for what it was because it felt like you were there, and I really appreciated that. But the story arc, the and some of that just wasn't good. The plot wasn't really there, and that's where I struggle with it. And then uh, I just struggle with how some of the character arc and the way they're trying to close things out. It just feels very rushed to me. Feels like they just kind of wanted to just get things done rather than just kind of truly thinking out how they could best approach it. And I mean, you could see it in how they treated the Jamie Lannister's character or Danny's character and a little bit. It's up for an argument for sure, but and then who's the like Tyrion's character a little bit, and then the last one for me was kind of who am I thinking of? Well, how they killed Cersei was. I mean, come on now, like I they foreshadowed so much of like this story arc of someone like Cersei and the Valonqar, where her little brother was supposed to kill her and all that stuff, and then she just dies from some rubble. So I don't know. Just some of that stuff's bothered me a little bit, and it just feels really rushed. But overall, I'm enjoying it, so that helps.
And Prince, how about you, man? Where you at with it? I know that you probably take a different lens sometimes, especially when you're looking at something like this. So what are your thoughts on how this whole season has played out, where things are at, and kind of how it's all going down?
Yeah, you guys know I could probably have my own podcast devoted to just this season, but I wanted to touch on what JR said because I think his perspective is unique. He's a newcomer, and I think what it allows him to be, and maybe what a lot of us should probably take in is like the fact that we just like we love this show, and not to take it like almost too seriously just because we've grown with it over the last couple of years and almost decade now. And I think that I don't know. I found that to be a kind of a reassuring thing that like, hey, there are people who are still new to the show, even if they haven't started when it is. But my perspective is similar to Myles. I think David, the producers guys, they are definitely done with the show. HBO essentially was going to cut them a blank check, do how many episodes and however long you need it to be, and they said 6 episodes. So I mean, I think that shows that they are ready to be done with Game of Thrones, and they're not going to do any of the prequel or any of the other spin-off stuff surrounding Game of Thrones. I thought overall, yes, this season has been rushed, and I know that there has been some complaints. I didn't actually hate the first 2 episodes like a lot of people did. Here's what I will say about what the show this season has done, right? Because I know people are really pissed at the way that Jamie and Cersei and some other people died or whatever the case is. I think what I gleaned out of this season so far is just the nuance of humanity, because I think when it came to like, especially with a guy like Jamie Lannister, right? I don't care for this guy. Some people really love his redemption arc. I think he's an asshole. I don't like anything about him really. But here's the thing about him is I think he illustrates what I think the message the show is trying to get off is that people are not all good and they're not all evil. There's a lot of nuance to humanity. There's a lot of nuance to people. Good people do selfish things. Bad people can do good things, and I think that shows like Jamie pushed the kid out of a window. He kills his own family. He does this, he does that. But then also he treats like a woman who he looked at as an equal and a friend with a lot of respect and honor.
Which woman?
Until the end.
Which woman are we talking about right now?
Okay.
Hold on. The woman he left crying in her house coat?
Come on.
Girl dirty. She thinking she won't even know what to do the rest of her life.
He gave her a little something, y'all. She would pass out in the sleep. Don't even act like he didn't. he didn't at least give her something. But anyway,
He did that woman dirty.
Anyway, but like no, that's what I think. That's what I'm gleaming from this season so far. Is just how complex being a person is, and how nuanced it is. And again, we're not all good. We're not all bad. We're kind of a mixture of both. We do selfish things for the people we care about, also for ourselves. And I think that's what so far. If there's one nugget people take away from it, that's what I want people to take away from it. Is that this people are nuanced, and that's what Game of Thrones. That's why it's so intriguing to us.
I think what I'm taking away from this is that Prince is driven away from a woman crying in her house coat. That's what I'm taking away from this.
Hey man, she was passed out.
Siding with Jaime Lannister after the way he done Brienne of Tarth. Yeah, that was surprising. Prince standing up for Jaime in that particular situation.
Not really standing up for him. Just saying I get it, right? That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yo, hey, get it how you live, Prince. I understand. It's okay, man. You don't need to defend yourself with us.
I still don't think Cersei is dead for some reason.
Oh no, she dead, man.
Oh, she dead, bro. She dead, bro.
You see that rubble?
They gonna bring back zombie Cersei?
I don't know, man. I just don't think she's dead for some reason.
Bro, I mean, they got one episode left. She better be dead. They got too much other stuff to do.
You know what I was thinking? I was listening to something talking about it. You know how Qyburn got did up by the mountain.
That's one of the most hilarious deaths. Oh my goodness!
But like Cersei walks by, is like, "Oh, excuse me, let me just slide past you real quick." I really believe it would have been dope if the Hound had like stabbed her, had killed her, and been like, "This is from Arya." That'd have been some dope. I like been thinking about that. Like that'd have been so sweet.
There were rumors that Arya was gonna actually be Jaime when they met up or whatever, and then she would unmask and kill her. But the thing is, I tell people with Arya is done being savior, right? She's not going to kill any more important people.
They showed her vulnerability in this one for sure.
I didn't like how they did that though. She went this whole time being a badass, and the Hound just looks at her like, "Don't be like me," and she's like, "Okay, cool,
you're right."
Yeah, you're right. I don't want to do that.
But to me, that shows the true vulnerability of like her. She's still like a kid, right? So to me, it just like shows the idea that, hey, she's still a kid. She still has a long future ahead of her for her life. I mean, I don't know what she's gonna do.
Again, that's what this season reminds us of Arya, because we spent the last 7 seasons watching her be a badass, and then this season we finally get to see, oh yeah, she hasn't gone through childhood the way that she probably should have. She hasn't had things like her first boyfriend, her first kiss, her losing her virginity, all these things, being scared. We haven't seen her scared since like season 4 or 5. So it's reassuring to see her humanity come back to her. And that's what I took that scene as being. It's like she's getting a little bit of humanity stored to her, because otherwise she's just a no-name girl.
Bran sent the Uber at the end to come on back.
Yeah.
Come on back.
Oh man. All right, well, I got really nothing else. Was there anything super pressing off the top of any of y'all's head? Anybody got any upcoming articles, any work, anything you need to plug before we get up out of here?
Check out the Draft Board podcast tomorrow. Today, I should say. I interviewed Florida State cornerback Levante Taylor. Be sure to check that out.
Yes, sir. We will definitely be doing that. You took yourself off mute like you were going to tell us something that you had coming down the pipeline. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I apologize for people. I've been out of commission, Twitter, writing, podcasting for a while. I have a show coming up here in a couple of weeks, A Raisin in the Sun. Really excited about it. It'll run for about 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, that's dope, Prince.
May 31st through the 14th, I believe, of June. So yeah, really excited about it. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday shows and whatnot. So I'll give more information later once we get all the information from marketing. But that's why, if y'all haven't seen me, that's where I've been at.
That's dope, man. Definitely go check it out. Support Prince. Myles, we know you just been busy, so we gonna let you go get some sleep, my man.
Yeah.
And listeners, as always, thank you for sticking with us, gentlemen. Good to have everyone back, and that's it. That's all. We will talk to you soon. Have a good one, everyone.
Wait, what are we talking about?
I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go.